Good morning. We would like to welcome you all. So any students, teachers, counselors, and our wonderful presenters as well to our 2020 virtual Charlotte R. Schmidlap Middle School Science Symposium. So as you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to move our middle school science symposium from an in-person experience to a virtual experience. We would like to thank everyone for joining us today to learn about 3 different careers within the biomedical sciences, healthcare, allied health, nursing professions. So we're going to be here every day this week from 11:30 to 1. And we hope that you'll come back and join us throughout the week. Please feel free to ask questions of the presenters. So myself, I'm Jamila Hackworth, the Associate Director of the Office of Academic Affairs and Career Development. And then I have many colleagues on the line. So you can ask any of us questions. You can put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring that, and also ask questions of the presenters. We'll be recording this program so that folks can access it from our website for the rest of the school year. All participants will be edited out, and only the presenter and the presentation will be on the final recording that will be placed on the website. So we hope you enjoy. So I want to introduce Miss Dawn Girten, who works as a speech and language pathologist. Miss Girten will be presenting information on being a speech and language pathologist.
So I'm super excited to be here. Again, my name is Dawn Girten, and I have been at Cincinnati Children's Hospital for over 16 years. I started off volunteering in the speech language pathology division because I have a sibling who's significantly younger than I am that I would bring to speech therapy. And I thought, that looks so fun. They're just playing with the kids and they're making crafts. I want to do that. I want to get to play with kids. So that's what got me interested, starting as a volunteer and working my way all the way up to the outpatient clinical manager, which here I am now. Okay, so what do SLPs do? We do more than work on the R sound. That is a misconception that's out there, that speech therapists, you go to a van and you work on saying your R's. We do a lot more than that. All the way from the time that you're born, working with feeding, to the time that you're on your deathbed, working with cognition and language and feeding issues. So we evaluate and diagnose and provide therapy to a range of communication issues. So eating, talking, reading, communicating, verbal or nonverbal. We do everything kind of from the neck up. So always an exciting field to think about because you'll never get burnout. There's always something new to try. Okay. So I thought it would be helpful to kind of give an idea of what I mean by evaluating and treating by showing you some videos. This first video is a sample of a preschooler who is doing an evaluation. Okay, so sorry you couldn't hear her, but she's labeling pictures, she's identifying pictures, and she's very confident in saying, let me do these myself. So that was kind of a cute video. But on this next slide, you'll see a lot of different diagnoses or conditions that we evaluate and treat. So your articulation are the sounds that you say. Phonology is the pattern in which you say it. Dysarthria is your muscle tone, language, and so forth. So we work with a variety of different individuals who are trying to improve communication and feeding and swallowing function across the ages. So where can SLPs work, or speech language pathologist? I work at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, but you don't have to work just at a hospital. You can work in the schools, the nursing home, home health, working inside the patient's home. Telepractice, we're kind of working in their home, but through the computer. You can communicate and work on communication through the computer, which is great. Colleges and universities, private practice, clinics. You can be an entrepreneur and have your own business. And then there's also several traveling companies. So if you want to see the country or you want to see the world, you can join up with a company that will allow you to do that. And they usually pay for your room and board, and they pay very well. So those are opportunities that are out there. Okay, so here's another video.
Out ball. Go, go, go. Down, 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 down. Down, 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 down. Down ball. Down ball. Go. Wow, go ball.
So she's really trying to have her say down ball, and she says down, so then she's adding another word to it, modeling what she wants her to say. And that's a therapy session focusing on language for somebody who's under 3. And we don't just work with children, we also work with their caregivers. I do a lot of telepractice by helping the parents learn how to talk with their children, expanding their language, reading books, how to do that effectively. Also working collaboratively with teachers, doctors, nurses, occupational therapists and speech therapists work together to do a co-treatment. So we're working with the child who's on the swing and talking at the same time. That can be really fun. Psychologists, social workers, dietitians, and other companies, consulting with companies on communication strategies that they can use with their employees. Okay, so here's a video for a child who is stuttering.
No.
Okay.
You need to use your gloves with it.
Uh-oh. I don't have any.
Well, I'm wearing them. So don't pick the Play-Doh up.
Okay. I won't pick the plate.
When I say it's time to put the gloves on, you can hold this rock.
Oh, I can hold that rock. Okay.
Oh no, you're not holding that rock without gloves. You need those gloves.
You're doing a good job having your gloves on.
Yeah, I'm not having chemical on my hands.
That's very important not to have chemicals on your hands.
If you take your gloves off, they will be germy, and don't put them in your mouth.
I won't put them in my mouth.
And that's why you get sick.
Okay, so one of the misconceptions about children who stutter is that they're not very bright. She has a great vocabulary, very, very bright, and she's just having trouble getting it out in a fluid way, her communication. So Play-Doh, you get to work with Play-Doh while you're doing speech therapy. How fun is that? Okay, and so who are our patients? For adults, usually we're working with adults on regaining their communication after a stroke or an accident. We also work on people trying to change their accents. We have a lot of adults who are from other countries who might have a big presentation and they get criticism that they can't be understood. So trying to help them understand how to reduce some of their accent so that they have a great presentation. Voice issues, so for singers, actors, and actresses, we work to help them use their voice appropriately, and other medical conditions that would impact their feeding, swallowing, or communication would be for adults. And then for kids, we do work on those R sounds and L sounds, but we also work on understanding and using language, feeding and swallowing issues, could be as a baby all the way up through high school. In fact, 1 out of 5 chances that you know somebody who has seen a speech language pathologist. It's very prevalent in our community. Okay, so this is a child who is using a device to communicate, which we call an alternative and augmentative communication system.
love.
Oh, try again. I
want
that.
that. I want that.
I want that. Good job. Put it on. Good work. Do you want?
I want that. I want that.
I want that. Good job. Put it on. Warren, do you want this? No, we could say. No.
No,
I don't like that.
I don't like that. No, I don't like that.
I don't like. Okay, thank you for telling me. What do you want?
I want that. I want that.
Good job talking. I want that. Put it on. Do you want this? Tell me with your talker. We say right here. No.
No,
I don't like
I
that.
don't like that. No, I don't like that.
Thank you for telling me. No, I don't like that. Okay, let's get some more. That's good.
Okay, so there's a variety of reasons that people cannot communicate with their voice, but we still want everybody to be able to get their wants and needs known. And we believe that that's a human right for everyone to have the ability to communicate. And this is one way that we can help make that happen. So if you are interested in being a speech language pathologist, then I would really look and see, do you like helping other people? That's one of the best characteristics of therapists, is we really enjoy helping and serving others. Are you a patient person? How about creative and imaginative? I like to think of speech language pathologists as having a little bit of art and a little bit of science mixed together. Good problem solving, a strong sense of cultural diversity and tolerance, and effective communicators, both verbally and written. So if you have some of those qualities, this might be a really nice career for you. And here is a treatment session of a child working on her voice. Wrong one. There.
Okay, go again. Perfect. See how it's moving? Your voice is moving the trunk. Good job. Good job. Send your voice through the straw. Good job.
So quick video there. There we go. Okay, so the education that's required to be a speech language pathologist, after your high school diploma, then you would get your bachelor's degree. And it doesn't have to be in the field of communication, but it could be. Communication sciences and disorders is typically the bachelor's degree that you would obtain, but you can also level in from a different program. You would need to take your graduate records examination, or GRE, and then attend an approved accredited school for master's. And there's a variety of ways that you can get your graduate degree. Some of it's hybrid, where it's online and in person, but the idea is that you're in the field learning and in school as well. So you need a master's degree to be a speech language pathologist. After you obtain your degree, you need to pass a national praxis exam in order to get your license through the state. You also have to complete a paid clinical fellowship year, and that's to be a certified speech language pathologist. So even though you have your degree in your master's, you pass the test, you have your license, you still need 9 months of being supervised by somebody to say, yep, you know what you're doing a great job. And you can go on and obtain your PhD or clinical doctorate if you would like as well. So how much do SLPs make? More than a teacher, but less than a doctor. And it really depends on what place you're in, what place setting. Some positives, I would say there's lots of choices of where to work. So you can move anywhere in the country and pick your setting, pick your place, who do you want to work with, you're really making a difference in somebody's life. And it is so fun and rewarding. You will never get bored. You will never go, oh, I can't believe I have to go to work today. It's fun to go to work. So I really encourage you to look at this as a career option in the future. Okay, what questions might people have?
So I have a question, Miss Girten.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what one of the coolest experiences that you've had as a part of your career is?
That is a great question. I've had a lot. I mean, I feel so blessed to have this as a career. One of my more favorite memories is of a mom bringing her child into therapy, and the child had autism, was nonverbal, but we were working really hard on him developing some verbal communication. And he came in every single week. Mom never missed. I mean, they were dedicated to coming to therapy, and they would implement all the strategies that I had suggested at home. And she came in this one particular day just in tears. And I was like, what's wrong? Oh my gosh, what happened? Something bad must have happened. And she said, no, he said his first words. And he was 5 years old. And his very first words wasn't just a word, it was a sentence. I love you, Mom. And it just melted my heart, and I'll never forget it. And to know that I could help facilitate that a little bit is incredibly rewarding.
Thank you so much. That's such an amazing story on the impact that you're having with the patients and families that you work with. Are there any other questions?
Well,
Well,
I
I have
appreciate
another
this
one.
opportunity. Yeah,
I have
please.
one more question. I just wanted to give people a chance. What is some advice that you would give to any young person who's interested in pursuing a career as a speech and language pathologist in the middle schools? What advice would you give those students?
So I think trying your best at school. You don't need to have a 4.0, but you need to try and get good grades. That's going to help you throughout life in any career choice that you make. So do your best now so you can prepare for the future. And it's only going to help you get into the college that you want to get in for what you want to do. So my best advice is to study hard now and find a job that you are happy with. Because if you are happy doing your job, it doesn't really feel like work, and you just get paid to have fun.
Well, thank you so much. We so appreciate you. This was an amazing presentation, and I absolutely love the videos.
Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get the sound working for the first couple.
It's okay. They were great. So thank you so much. And what we're going to do now is take a short break, and then we'll pick right back up in at around 12:10 for the next presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm very pleased to be able to introduce our next speakers. These are two graduate students in our neuroscience program, and they're going to have really cool photos of, I'm sure, of the brain. First, I guess, is going to be Paige. Paige Greenwood is working with children in her graduate program, and Jennifer Paritti Cram is working with mice to model human diseases. So first, Paige, you want to talk a little bit about your project and what you're doing here?
Absolutely. So I do have some poll questions we can place up on the screen, if you can, please. So we'll give it a little bit of time, maybe 1 minute, for you guys to answer the following questions so we can get started. But just to kind of give you background on myself, my name is Paige Greenwood. I study how socioeconomic status can impact reading development and brain function for children who are around your age. So we're getting our responses in for the first question, being true or false. Neuroscience is a study and research of the nervous system, which currently 100% of you all believe that is true, which it is true. So just to kind of give you background on myself, I've always been extremely curious about any particular aspect of science. It has always been really interesting for me to be curious about certain aspects of the world around me. So early on, I knew that I was going to be a physician. I did not know that you could take alternative routes and pursue a PhD to do research. So one of the experiences that was really defining for me was my physics class in high school. My physics teacher allowed me to be super curious and ask questions about different research topics. And it really formalized my ability to think critically. And I knew that I wanted to ask more questions and learn more about science. So when I graduated from high school, I decided I'm going to Hampton University, which is a historically Black college in Virginia. And I had it in my mind, I'm going to be a doctor, I am going to do dermatology, and this is, what I'm going to be focused on when I go off to Hampton. Well, my counselor had other plans for me, and she told me, you can't be a medical doctor without actually getting some research experience. So I thought to myself, okay, fine, let's just go ahead and see what this research thing is all about. So I joined the Mark Scholars Program and I was accepted for it. And it's an NIH program that basically helps you get career and professional development in research. And so as a result of that, I was able to do my first research experience at Brandeis University, doing some wacky project looking at virus membranes. And it was just, even though it was completely out of the scope of what I was studying, which was biology, I was like, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I never thought that I could do something like this before. So I was like, okay, let's go further. Let's see what else is possible. I did an additional research experience at Johns Hopkins University studying HIV and HCV, which is hepatitis C virus. And so these research experiences were really defining for me. And I started to think, maybe I can do more with science than just be a traditional doctor taking patients. So after reading a research paper on autism and the developing brain, I was really intrigued with this neuroscience topic. I was like, okay, this organ is something that we don't really know very much about and we're still learning about. So I attended a conference called the Animal Biomedical Research Conference for Minority Students. And this conference is where I learned about the University of Cincinnati. I had a graduate student who recruited me to UC. And so I started to apply for neuroscience programs. And so where I am currently is at the University of Cincinnati, as well as the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, as a neuroscience doctoral candidate, studying the role of the environment on reading and the developing brain. So just to kind of give you a little bit of brain basics. So the brain is this super complex organ full of billions of neurons. And the developing brain consists, or the brain consists of two hemispheres. So in a really simplistic way, the left hemisphere deals with more so logic, and then you have the right hemisphere that deals with creativity. And these two sides of the brain are able to communicate to one another through the corpus callosum, which is a bunch of tissue that acts as a way for the brain to integrate its different signals. But you have different lobes that have various functions. So we have the frontal lobe, which deals with our attention, our ability to focus on a task at hand. We have our parietal lobe, which deals with our sensation. So if you've ever put your hand on a hot stove and decided to push it back because it was uncomfortable, the parietal lobe is heavily involved in that. We also have the temporal lobe, which deals with working memory, as well as auditory processing and language. And then you have the occipital lobe, which deals with vision. So now that we know some of the basic functions of the brain, we can bring it to reading. So what is reading? So I think sometimes we don't really think about how complex it is to be able to read a book that's in front of us. So you're using your knowledge of vocabulary to be able to understand each of the words that are in front of you. You're using your attention to focus on the task at hand. You're blocking out anything that's happening around you in order for you to be able to allocate your attention to reading. And you're also using your reading comprehension. So you're being able to decode each of the words and understand its meaning. So with reading, sometimes these different functions can go awry. So some kids have reading difficulties, commonly known as dyslexia, because they're not able, or they have difficulties with language processing, or they have difficulties with attention, or they have reading comprehension issues. And so what I do with my research is we do behavioral testing to basically see where children who are 8 to 12 years old are performing and when it comes to their reading ability. So we want to see how their language skills are, how are they what are their abilities when identifying different letters? Are they able to switch between different tasks? How are they performing in that regard? But we also want to do neuroimaging. We want to see what the brain looks like. So we're looking at brain function and structure using the MRI scanner, which is magnetic resonance imaging. And this allows us to image the brain. And so from this, we get these really beautiful images where we're able to look at various regions or networks within the brain that may be important for reading ability. But ultimately, we really want to understand the environment's involvement in reading and how we can improve reading ability through interventions. So through my journey, although I am a neuroscientist by training, I am really interested in science policy. So that's using science to basically define different policies that impact us on a local, state, or federal level. And so I'm really passionate about using my science background or my neuroscience background about the environment and its impact on child development for improving science education for children who may not have those resources. And so what I do often in my spare time and what I'm looking to get into as a career is using science education as a mode to really empower and inspire the next generation of youth to take it on as a career or to be interested in it, because science is in every single thing that we do, whether it be eating a bagel in the morning or walking down the street or, just anything, it's involved in that. And so I'm really hoping to utilize my science background to work on the Hill one day and advocate for policies that improve STEM education for children just like you. So just like the brain has many functions, neuroscientists also have different career paths. So I'll allow Jennifer to take over and talk about her journey as well.
Thanks, Paige. So like Paige said, we're both neuroscientists. I'm Jennifer. I'm specialized in a very, very different way. So Paige works with kids just like you. I work with animals in a lab. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and my journey and my research, and then tell you why science is so cool. So I was actually born in Venezuela. So which is a country in South America. So my primary language is Spanish. But then my parents moved, and I was raised in Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States. But again, that's another place where the primary language is Spanish. So I went to middle school and high school in Puerto Rico, in Caguas, in the city. And so all my education was in Spanish. But then I decided, I've always liked science, but I wanted to know, is this actually something that I want to pursue when I go to college? So I did what it's called a pre-college research program, which is a program that universities have for high school students to do research on like as an extracurricular activity. So I did that, and I was able to actually come from Puerto Rico to the United States, to the University of Vermont, and do some research while I was still in high school, like during the summertime. So that was my first experience doing research, and I really liked it. So then when it was time to go to college, I moved to Ohio, and I went to The Ohio State University. Here you can see me with Brutus, and it was great. I had a great time, and I did research while I was there because I already knew I liked it. And now I'm in graduate school pursuing a PhD, just like Paige. So that's a doctorate degree to be a researcher, a neuroscientist. So like I said, I'm a neuroscientist, and Paige sort of alluded to this, and she said, you know, like the brain does a lot of things. There's 1 billion of cells in the brain, and there are neuroscientists that look at the brain specifically, just like Paige. But in my case, and so on the left side here, you can see like a cut of the brain, and you can see like what's inside that brain. And this is an adult human brain. And just if you're curious, the brain actually weighs like 3 pounds. So for a tiny little thing compared to the rest of our body, it does a lot of stuff. But for me, I study something called the spinal cord, which you can see on the right. You can see a little bit of the spinal cord. It is much longer, which I'll show you in another picture, but it's still part of the nervous system. So I'm a neuroscientist because I study the nervous system. Here's a little poll. Can we pull up the poll? So where do you think that is located? And I'm not talking about the brain. I'm talking about that structure below the brain. So it's on your back. So it's A, your stomach, B, your legs, C, the back. So it's on your back. So it runs all the way from the bottom of your brain to the top. And so it's an amazing structure that connects your brain with all the muscles in your body and all the organs in your body. So it helps the brain control everything inside your body, from the movement of your hands to your heart rate to how you run and to honestly how you think. So it's an amazing structure, and I study that that structure. So just to break it down really quickly, so you have all these nerves in your body, all around your body, and those nerves are composed of something called neuron. And so a neuron is this thing that you see here that has different parts. It has a cell body that is, I'm trying to get the pointer. So you have you have your cell body with dendrites, and then you have your big axon. And so information, there's information in the form of electricity that travels from the soma to the other side of the neuron. And that's how nerves or neurons communicate to one another. So that axon, that long axon, has this structure called the myelin sheath, and that's pretty much like a layer of fat that helps the information that's traveling from the top of the axon to the bottom of the axon to travel fast. Because you can see that it's like a long highway. I compare it to a long highway. And so that information really needs to travel fast so that you can move fast, you can think fast, that you have your heart rate happening the way that you want to have your heart rate happening. And so for that, there's this myelin sheath which covers that axon and helps that information go fast, travel fast from neuron to neuron. And so there are these like very specialized cells that are called these Schwann cells that are here in the middle that have a bunch of different arms, and those arms make that myelin sheath, that fatty, that fat structure that covers the axon. And so those are the cells that I study in my lab, the Schwann cells, the cells that make that fat tissue around the axon that allows electricity or information to travel fast in the neurons, from neuron to neuron. So here I have like another picture of a Schwann cell, and you can see one Schwann cell can connect to different neurons and produce that myelin sheath in different neurons. And it's like, I just wanted to show you this picture because it's a more 3D picture. And this is sort of a picture that I took in my lab of actually cutting. If you cut a neuron in half, you can see the axon, what we talked about. You can see that myelin sheath, that fatty covering that wraps around the axon. And you can actually see the Schwann cell right here. So I think that's super cool to be able to see the Schwann cell wrapping around that axon and creating that fatty tissue that's going to help the information travel fast. So specifically, I study a disease called neurofibromatosis. Now that's a really hard word to say, but I'm going to break it down for you. So neuro means the nerves in the body, and fibroma meaning little lumps that form in the nerves. So I'm studying a disease that looks at the nerves in the body, and that it's a disease where patients get these lumps, or what we call tumors, in their nerves. So in here, there's a really cool picture. So you remember I showed you the brain and the spinal cord when I asked you where is that located. So that's located in your back, right? And so here's a picture where you can see a person that has, this is the head and this is the spinal cord, that's their back. And you can see these little lumps that appear all along their spinal cord. So those are neurofibromas. Those are the tumors that I study. And these tumors appear early in childhood. They can appear, as early as a couple months of age. And it affects children as well as adults. So in the lab, because we can't really do experiments on humans, or at least the types of experiments that I want to do, I can't do them in kids or adults. So I use mice. And so we use mice to sort of recreate the disease that we see in human, and then study how we can get them help, how we can cure that disease. So in here, I'm showing you a spinal cord of a mouse. And so this is a healthy spinal cord, and you can see the little, the cord, and then you can see these other structures here that are called the dorsal root ganglion and the nerves innervating that. And you can see there's no lumps. It looks nice, it looks healthy. But when you looked at the diseased spinal cord, so these are mice that have the disease that I study, neurofibroma, then you see these tumors that are showing up in the nerve and pushing on that spinal cord. And so that's the animal model. So we use those mice to study that. So my goal as a scientist and as a graduate student is to help advance scientific research to find treatments for patients that suffer from neurofibroma. And so these are two fighters that are neurofibroma patients. And so I just always like to remind scientists and other people that this is what we do. We, as scientists, try to help others to advance research to find treatments for people that suffer from these really, really bad diseases. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what you can do right now to start on that roadmap to get a career in science. So you're right now in number 1, which is, you're in middle school. So my best advice to you right now is learn to learn. And by that I mean learn the techniques, the ways that you learn, because in high school and in college, you're gonna have more information coming your way, and you're gonna have to learn different ways to study. So I think in middle school is great practice, middle school and high school, to sort of learn the way that you learn, so that when you get to college and graduate school, you already know what techniques work for you. And then my second bullet point is be part of student organizations, be part of the scientific fair at your middle school, and be an active student. And then, like one of the presenters said earlier, keep up your good grades. And then, go to high school, and then go to college and major in study something that you really, really like. And then if you want to become a neuroscientist, then you would have to go to graduate school, just like Paige and I, to pursue a doctorate degree, and become a cool neuroscientist. And so, last thing I want to say is that as a neuroscientist, you don't have, like Paige mentioned, you don't have to be in the lab for the rest of your life. You can pursue other careers. And so Paige is doing science policy. And in my case, I'm actually going into law. And so I'm going to combine my knowledge of science and my future knowledge in law to help scientists develop, to bridge that gap between lawyers and scientists, and help them communicate better. And so that's sort of what I'm doing. And if you have any questions, let me know.
I have one quick thing to add. Don't be afraid to take advantage of opportunities that come in front of you. There are plenty of opportunities to shadow medical professionals, attend a lab, to see what they're doing. So don't be afraid to take advantage of those opportunities, because they could be really beneficial to your career trajectory as a scientist, regardless of whatever field that you go into.
Absolutely. So do you guys have any questions for Paige or myself?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I would like to know, who are some of your role models and how did they influence you to be able to go to where you're going? We're so proud of you. This was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Paige, do you want to go first? Yeah,
absolutely. So when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of examples of scientists who look like me. And so it was a little bit harder for me to kind of figure out where I fit into this big picture or this big bubble of scientific discovery. So I think my first role model was my physics teacher that I mentioned, Dr. Suwari, who didn't discourage me from asking questions, because I think that can happen to a lot of us. The ones who are super inquisitive, you're asking a lot of questions, but you might have people who may discourage you from doing so. My teacher, she did not stop me from asking questions. She encouraged me to join the science fair. She nominated me for an award in science when I was in high school. And so I really made sure to stick as close to her as possible, because I felt like she was really nurturing my, passion for scientific discovery. And that's what led me to want to pursue a degree in biology. So I think, sometimes mentors or our representation in science can come in different ways. And so if you have that one teacher that is really pushing you to do your best in science, really hold on to them and really listen to what they have to say, because that could really help you as you're progressing on with your science journey.
Great advice. Thank you so much. Jennifer?
Yeah, I have this similar experience. I had, role models in middle school and high school, and in middle school and high school teachers that always, like Paige said, wanted me to speak up and never said stop asking questions, which is very important for a scientist, right? We're all very inquisitive and we're all asking questions. But why? But why did this happen? And how did it happen? And so, yeah, so I had role models in college as well, people pushing me forward. I've also had people who've told me, maybe you can't pursue this career path for whatever reason. So I think it's very important that you surround yourself with people who want you to succeed and not necessarily listen to some people that might tell you otherwise. So, yeah.
I was told as a freshman in high school that biology wasn't something that I could pursue. And now today, I'm a neuroscientist. So you really have to block out any negativity or any noise that may be going on around you as you're focusing on your goal or you're trying to reach what you want to go into. So really, like Jennifer said, surround yourself with positive people who want to see you succeed.
Thank you both so much. This was amazing. We are truly grateful that you joined us today. Does anyone else on the call have questions? All right, if not, we can take a brief pause and we'll pause the recording as we get set up for Chima John, and we'll try to share the screen for you and your video. So give us about 3 or 4 minutes and then we'll be back. Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce Mr. Chima John, who is a registered nurse and works as a clinical care manager at Cincinnati Children's. Mr. John will be presenting Nursing, One Choice, 1,000 Careers, and he's going to start with a video.
I am a nurse.
I am a nurse.
I am a nurse.
A people person.
A teacher. A leader. A friendly face. A team member.
Committed.
Lifesaver.
An educator. A care provider.
Honest. Loving.
Passionate. There for families.
A professional.
A listener.
A hero.
I am a nurse.
My name is Anthony Zaya, and my role here is a specialty resource nurse, part of the float pool, so anywhere there are needs is where I go. Also, 1 day a week, I will do clinical instruction for the University of Cincinnati. One of my best friends, when we were 13 or 14 years old, dove into one of our friends' pools, and he crushed his C3, C4 vertebrae and became a quadriplegic. I was fortunate to become educated and was able to be his independent provider for some time. My call to nursing was born. What's unique here is that as a specialty resource nurse, I'm able to float to all the different units, and then as an instructor, be current with what we're doing in the education of hands-on patient care. So a good nurse is someone who just has a passion for people. We want to give them a broad, holistic view of how to do a correct assessment and be aware of all the things that are holistically going to care for their patient. They're so interested in the skills of being able to start an IV or drop an NG tube or run the pumps. They're so concerned with those, when really, I want to teach them the art of nursing, the importance of noticing those little things and being motivated to provide not just great patient care. You always get great patient care at this hospital, but to try to elevate their thinking to provide extraordinary care and making the hospital experience not something that's scary, but something that's comforting. There was one day when I was in the room and I don't think I was doing anything special or in particular. I was just checking in on him, and this is a 16-year-old boy. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what, Tony? You're my favorite nurse." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Thank you for the compliment." I said, "Why do you say that?" And he said, "You're always there when I need you." And man, that was awesome. My name is Anthony, and I'm a nurse.
Good morning. My name is Chima John. I am so excited to talk to you guys today about being a nurse. So like Tony, a lot of nurses that I've spoken with, they have a calling to become a nurse. For me, growing up as a kid in Sierra Leone, which is a small country in Africa, I remember the first time I got in contact with a healthcare provider was when my mom was sick. She was at the hospital for a long time and she wasn't getting better. I remember at one point she didn't even know who I was. And then she's been in the hospital for so long. And then one day there was a doctor that came from the United States who then realized that my mom was misdiagnosed. So what that means is what they thought she had wasn't what she had. She had a different illness than they thought she had. So then they started treating her for the disease which we find out that she had. And I just remember the care that those nurses gave to my mom, the nurses and the doctors. And then I remember that this is what I want to do definitely when I grow up. And so that's how I find myself just fascinated by a career in nursing. So for right now, I am a clinical program manager, but I started as a PCA, which is like a nursing aide. So what a nursing aide does is just like help the nurses, and I studied that through the College of Mount St. Joseph. So I was a co-op and I helped the nurses out. And then once I graduated, I became a nurse, a floor nurse on the neurosurgery, neuroscience, and trauma unit. So I'm glad that if you listen to the earlier speakers, they taught neurology and the brain. So we dealt with kids that have issues with their brains, like some that have seizures, kids that need brain injury. We also did trauma, like kids that had accidents, and unfortunately, sometimes we do deal with kids that have gunshot wounds. So I spent a lot of time on that floor, and then after a while, I became a care manager. So as a care manager, what we do is, I like to say we help families navigate the healthcare system. So just help them to figure out what they need to do to get the best care for their kids. So currently I am a clinical program manager with HealthVine. And basically what I do right now is I help, I work with nurses, doctors, social workers, and community health workers, just to make sure that sick kids see all the doctors that they need to see, and they just receive all of the resources that they need. For example, if their family have issues with food or housing, we kind of help them get those resources that they need. So that is what I'm doing right now. I do have one question for you. Who here is a nurse? So all of you who answered all of the above, you are very correct. So there are nurse case managers, a nurse policymaker, a nurse anesthetist, a nurse administrator, a nurse researcher, and a nurse educator. So what is a nurse? So as a nurse, we are the most trusted and respected profession in the US to the public. A nurse, we combine science and technology with people's skills like communication, problem solving, teaching, and compassion. We touch people's lives at a time when they need help, when they need guidance, and when they need support. We are the backbone of the healthcare system. As the backbone, let me take you through like what a day as a floor nurse would look like. So I used to work night shift. I would come in on the floor and then I receive report from the nurse before me. So the nurse before me would tell me what happened with the patients that I'm having, what to look forward to, what things to kind of like monitor, to observe and things like that. So with that, I would go in and assess the patients just to make sure that everything is going well with the patients. And if there's something that is kind of a little bit concerning, then I would contact the nurse or the speech therapist or whoever needs to be contacted. So we are like the eyes and the ears for the doctors and basically all members of the healthcare team. We are with the patients. There's a nurse that's with the patient 24 hours when they're in the hospitals. So we're like the first person to realize if something is going wrong and communicate that with who needs to be communicated with. So the doctors and the healthcare team as a whole, they rely on us for assessments and they value what we think about the patients because we can provide. If something is going wrong with the patient, we're the first person to see that. And then, like I said, we'll contact the doctor, and then we collaborate with them. That means we work with them together to figure out what is best for the kid. Today's registered nurses, we work to promote health, we prevent diseases, we help patients and families to cope with their illness, with their emergency, any long-term diseases, and we also save lives. We make communities healthier. Like I said earlier, we have been the most trusted professional for the past 18 years. One of the things that I say every day when I come to work, we do have an opportunity to do good. We do have an opportunity to see good every day. Every day we come into the world, we have that opportunity to be that good in the world. And one of the things that I like to touch on is the therapeutic use of the self. I remember one of my most memorable days on the floor was one day when I came in to work my night shift. I saw the doctors coming out of my patient's room, which is usually like at 7 o'clock shift change is not a good thing. And then I just walked into the room and mom was just sitting on the floor crying. She had just received a really bad diagnosis. That means like the wasn't doing so well, and mom was just sitting on the floor crying. So at that time, all I think that I needed to do was just sit on the floor. I didn't do anything medical, no assessment or anything like that. I just sat on the floor with mom and just sat on the floor while she cried. I don't know how long that happened, but after that, she just stood up, gave me a hug, and said, "That's exactly what I needed." So that's how you use yourself therapeutically. You have that compassion, that empathy, just to meet those patients and families where they are every day. We also, as nurses, deliver babies. We can teach. We transport critical patients by helicopter, plane, or ambulance. One of my friends always talked about the time that she came into work in the morning and they had to take a patient out to St. Louis by helicopter. And so she went with a team, and they went in there, took the patient, took her to St. Louis, and then came back, and she was done by 4:30 in the afternoon. Nurses work in public health, which is so important nowadays with this COVID crisis. They perform research, and we definitely do make a difference. Where are the places that I could be a nurse? I know most of the people, when you think about nurses, you think about a nurse in a hospital, like a pediatric nurse, which we are here at children's hospitals, adult, geriatric, and geriatrics. Geriatrics are old people, neonates, those are the little babies, surgery. But you can also be a nurse in community clinics, at your doctor's offices, school nurses, business corporations. That friend that I was telling you about who took a patient to St. Louis, her brother is a nurse and he works at GE. And nurses can do research, and nurses, there are nurses in the military too. One of my closest friends who I work with here at Children's is actually a military nurse, and he's deployed out of the country right now. This is one of the most exciting things to talk about, the pay. So at Cincinnati Children's right now, our starting salary is about $24 to $26 an hour. And with overtime, that adds to your base pay per hour. And you get shift differential, evening, night, and weekend. What that means is you get added amount per hour, like maybe $3 an hour if you work an evening shift, or if you work a night shift, or if you work a weekend shift. And on-call pay is what you get. If they think they're gonna need you, but they don't need you right now, you stay home. And for that time that you're staying home, you get paid. So if they do need you, they would call you in, and then you can come in and get your full pay. But that time when you're sitting home, you get paid for that. You get paid some percentage of what you should get an hour. What is the schedule? So a nursing schedule is very flexible. You can work 8, 10, 12-hour shifts. I have worked all of those shifts. And if you work 12-hour shifts, you work 3 days a week most of the time. And that can give you time to develop your hobbies. Like me, I know when I was working on the floor 3 days a week, I decided to start running half marathons. Yeah, don't know if that was the smartest, but as of last year, COVID is not making me run this year. I had done 7 marathons. So with my schedule, that worked out pretty well. And you can work full-time or part-time to, I mean, like if you work 3 days a week, you can go on vacations, which not right now with COVID not helping that, but our shifts are very, very flexible. So how can you get a nurse? Nursing is definitely not an easy field, just because you get to work, especially with people that are sick, especially in the hospital with babies that are sick. But it's so rewarding just because you have that opportunity to be that calmness, to be that peace that the families look up to when they're in the hospital. So, but it is very rewarding. And how to become a nurse? Just you can definitely get your high school diploma and focus on those math and science courses because they come in handy. Choose a school and apply. I would show you a list of the schools in my next slide. And there are different degrees that you can get for nursing. For example, you can get an associate degree in nursing, which takes about 2 to 3 years, and a BSN, which is a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, that takes about 4 years, and it's required for magnet hospitals. So magnet hospitals are hospitals that have been designated as having like really great, amazing nursing as part of the hospital. And Cincinnati Children's, of course, is a magnet designated hospital. And you can get, after that, if you want to go further, you can get your Master's in Science in Nursing, which takes about 2 to 3 years. And even further, you can get a PhD or DNP, which is a doctorate in nursing practice. And through the military, you can get, through the ROTC program in military, you can become a nurse also. After getting your degrees, you have to pass a state licensure exam, which is called the NCLEX. So once you pass that, then you are allowed to practice nursing in that state where you pass the NCLEX exam. You can also apply for financial aid and or scholarships. You can be a nurse anytime. A number of people that I work with have secondary degree education. That means they had a degree before, like some of them in business, and then they just had this calling that they were called to become a nurse. So then they went through the nursing program and became a nurse. So like I talked about, these are some schools around here. We are so lucky around the Cincinnati area. We have a lot of schools that you can become a nurse, where you can get a degree to become a nurse. Some of them, University of Cincinnati. I need to plug my alma mater, Mount St. Joseph University, and a lot of universities around this area where you can get a nursing degree. And I know there's some ADM, some associate degree in nursing courses like programs like Girten. And so if you can do some, just look around, there are a lot around here that can help you start your career in nursing. I get asked this question a lot: why become a nurse? It's powerful. It's a fulfilling career where you can make an impact on the lives of patients and families forever. I was at a meeting recently, not a hospital meeting, and I remember I was wearing this jacket that I'm wearing, a Cincinnati Children's Hospital jacket, and this man walked up to me and said, do you work at Children's Hospital? It's like, yeah, I do. He said, are you a nurse? I'm like, yeah, I am a nurse. And he said, oh yeah, I had one of my daughters was in the hospital forever. And I think it took care of him, because I still remember, I keep thinking, I wonder where you are, because you took such great care of my daughter, that my wife and he was saying, my wife and I keep thinking, like, I wonder where he is. And he was so excited to see me. He's like, I'm going to tell my wife, she's going to be so happy that I saw you again. And for a minute there, I couldn't remember who he was, who the patient was, but I did remember later. But it just goes to show you that you have an impact on people's lives every day that you don't even realize that you're having. And I do like this quote by Leo Buscaglia. He said, too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest accomplishment, or smallest acts of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. And I think that just sums up nursing perfectly. that's what we are. We just provide that comfort to the patients and the families that we get in touch with. What questions do you have for me?
If they don't have any questions, I do, Chima.
Okay.
So can you tell us, what is one of the coolest experiences that you've had as a nurse?
I've had a lot of cool experience, but I'm gonna go a different route. There is a part on our floor on A7 where what you do is, it's called the epilepsy monitoring unit. So we do sleep studies. We try to keep kids awake for a point in time just to see how their brains react, and just try to kind of like induce them to get a seizure. So one of the things you try to do is to prevent them from going to sleep. So I walked on that floor one day and I remembered, so this kid was just trying not to go to sleep. And we do have a lot of like games. So I just remember like this kid saying like, how can you play a game with me? And then we played Wii tennis for like an hour, him and I. And the kid, when he left for that, I wasn't on that floor, on that part of the floor when he was leaving. And he made sure that he found me. It's like, when I came into the hospital, I was so worried and nervous, but this was one of the best experiences. Man, you get to play a Wii with me. I was so excited, and it just made the whole experience for him. After that, after him and I played the Wii, his anxiety just dropped down a lot, and it made like that experience so pleasant for him. So yeah, I remember that experience like vividly.
Oh, thank you so much. Just goes to show you the important role that nurses play for our patients and families. Any other questions?
I do have a question here from Madison. He asked, how did you know you wanted to become a nurse and why? And I touched on it earlier, was when my mom was in the hospital back home in Africa, and he was treated by some nurses and doctors and nurses. And I just remember the care that they provided to him. And then once, so I knew I was gonna be in health. Like I knew I wanted to do something in health. And I came to the hospital. I wanted to become like an LPN. I also liked law. I didn't know if I was gonna be a healthcare lawyer or something in health. But I was like, I'm just gonna try to do like an LPN. But then, like I said, when I went to the Mount, I did my nursing. I did my not role transition. I did my co-op here at Children's. The moment I stepped in the hospital, I knew that this was for me. Like just everything about it, the brainstorming, the helping, the collaboration, the people that I worked with, I just knew that this is what I meant to do.
Well, thank you so much, Chima, John, and also for the guests who joined us today. I think we made it through some technical difficulties, but we pulled it off in the end. So thank you so much. And we will be back tomorrow with 3 new presenters about who are going to talk about 3 new careers tomorrow. So thank you so much. Bye.